Welcome to the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Mark Renee and Sean Castles, coming to you from Radio Waves Studios in New York City. Now, let's kick off the show.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in the Ultra World Podcast. This is your host, Sean Castles, and my colleague Mark is unfortunately still on assignment. But I got a special episode here for all my starseeds. We brought in astrologer Scott Tejerian to discuss the upcoming transits and how they're affecting a few players that I think are going to have very interesting World Cups. I picked out 8 guys who either had a great season or some were some controversial picks for adding to their World Cup rosters. And then Scott dove into their zodiac charts and talked about what was in store for them this World Cup. So let's get to it. I am really excited for this episode that we have Scott Tejerian of the Weekly Transit, astrologer extraordinaire, and the Ultra World Podcast's own astrologer joining us. Scott, thanks for joining.
Oh, you're welcome, Sean. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I want to be very clear that this is not a gambling podcast. This is for entertainment purposes only. But, everything is in the stars. So, you do what you want with your money. But I'm going to start it off with Erling Haaland of Norway. He is literally a Viking who plays for Manchester City. For 3 straight Premier Leagues seasons, he's won the Golden Boot, so he's been the top scorer. He got hit by a bus this year, and the bus got hurt.
Wow. Is that real? He did?
Yeah, he did. Back in October, he was in a qualifying game for Norway, and he got hit by the bus's door. He got banged up, and while I don't have affirmation that the bus was broken, I got to imagine that he dented it at least a little bit.
Wow, that's wild.
So I'm going to turn to you, Scott, here and see, what does Erling Haaland have that the planets say about him this upcoming World Cup?
Well, okay, so I don't really follow soccer too much, so this is wild that you're telling me that he got hit by a bus, because I was going to ask you if he had some sort of accident or injury or something over the past year, because Chiron, the wound, and the ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound, had been in a square, which is a stressful aspect, to several of his planets. He was born with Mars and the Sun in Cancer, also the North Node in Cancer, and all 3 of those points were being squared by Chiron, the wound, this past year. The Sun represents vitality. Mars is action, self-confidence, courage. The North Node is the soul's purpose. So now that Chiron point is moving away from his Sun, it looks like whatever that energy was that was creating tension or potential wounding for him is clearing as we move into the World Cup. I mean, I really like where the planets are aligning for him. Oh my God, yeah. Like I'm so intrigued about what is going to happen for him during this World Cup, because the planets are in a really favorable position. When the World Cup begins on June 11th, Venus, which is Lady Luck, the goddess of love and beauty, is in conjunction, meaning right on top of his Sun, his sense of vitality. Jupiter, the planet of luck, is right next to Venus. So both the planet of luck and Lady Luck are aligning right on top of his Sun, the planet that represents his vitality, his energy. And they're also both forming a sextile, which is a supportive aspect, with his Saturn, which is the planet of responsibility, achievement, authority. You couldn't ask for better positioning right now. As we move into the World Cup, Venus transits into Leo. That happens on June 13th. He was born with Venus in Leo, so he literally has his Venetian return on June 20th, 21st.
Ooh.
By that time, Jupiter is literally right on top of his Sun. Jupiter is going to form an exact conjunction with his Sun on June 22nd. Mercury is the planet of consciousness, communication, coordination. Mercury is forming a favorable aspect, a conjunction with his Mars on June 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Mercury is going to retrograde, so it's slowing down, and it's slowing down right on top of his Sun, his North Node, his Mars. Mars is also transiting through Taurus, and that is forming favorable aspects for Holland as well. Forms a positive sextile with his Mars, then forms positive aspects with his North Node, his soul's purpose, on the 18th to the 22nd. Mars forms positive aspects with his Sun. So this, again, Mars is the planet of action, courage, confidence, forming a positive aspect to his Sun, the planet of vitality and identity. I'm curious that maybe right around June 29th, there's a shift. Like he might be on a tear.
Yeah.
And then like right around the end of the month, favor kind of shifts for him. Maybe he's not.
So little thing for you here, Scott, as you're saying that.
Yeah.
That's right where the group stage ends and where the knockout round begins. It'd be a big deal for Norway to go to the round of 32, even the round of 16. That's really interesting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because that's when things start to shift. I mean, there are some favorable aspects that continue as we move into July, but it's not as powerful as it is in the beginning of the tournament. Like Jupiter forms a conjunction with his Mars, the planet of action, forms a conjunction with his Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion. That happens right around July 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Okay.
So, if he's still in it then, it could be really positive for him. The Sun also forms a conjunction with his Mercury around July 1st, 2nd, which is also potentially positive. But one thing I'm curious about too, and this is for all players, is to see if there's a shift, like players that are playing really well prior to June 29th, if maybe they start to fall off after June 29th, and vice versa. Players that maybe started out slow but are still in it after the 29th start to really pick it up and play well, because that's when Mercury retrograde begins.
I will say that Erling Haaland is going to need those aspects because he's in a group of death. He's got France, Senegal, and Iraq.
Okay.
In Norway's Group I. And France and Senegal are really, really good.
Okay.
They're going to need all of Erling Haaland and Alexander Sorloth to make it to the next round.
Well, if they do make it to the knockout, if he has some really good aspects coming back, when Jupiter is forming a sextile to his Jupiter. So, and Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, is forming a conjunction with his Jupiter. So maybe if he's able to get through those difficult transits and stay with it, like who knows, they can shock the world,
Next up on our list is Julian Alvarez. And while most people will think of the traveling all-stars, that is Argentina, Julian Alvarez often gets overlooked. He's also a lot younger, but he used to play for Manchester City, and he got transferred over to Atletico Madrid a couple years back. And ever since he's joined Atletico Madrid, he has completely shined. He has been awesome. He has been one of the top scorers in La Liga. He's really fun to watch. He's so hot right now that there's a bidding war for his services across Europe. I think like Barcelona and Atletico Madrid and Arsenal are all trying to vie for his contract this year. So, Scott, I'm going to ask, what do the planets say is in store for Mr. Alvarez?
It's kind of mixed to start the tournament, but one thing's really clear. He's being asked by the planets to step up into a position of authority. Like he's really being called to level up, whether it's his play or his sense of leadership. Saturn, the planet of authority and responsibility. The beginning of the tournament is at 13 degrees in Aries, and that forms a supportive aspect with Alvarez's Pluto, the planet of transformation, and his Chiron, the planet that represents the wound and the ancient wisdom, which is unlocked through healing that wound. This carries through the entire tournament. Saturn is going to retrograde after the tournament is over. So Saturn is very slowly moving from 13 to 14 degrees. And when the tournament ends, it's at 14 degrees, forming an exact trine with his Chiron, which, can indicate that maybe he's going through some form of trial, personal trial. He's really learning to take responsibility for who he is.
Okay.
He's learning to speak up. He's been a younger player and is quieter and kind of in the background, but now he's being called to lead. And it's time for you to step into that position of authority. So when the tournament begins, though, the sun is squaring his Mars. That's a really tense aspect. The planet of vitality, squaring his sense of courage, confidence, authenticity. It's also forming a trine, a supportive aspect with his Mercury. So it's a bit mixed. Mercury's communication, coordination. It feels like it might be a little bit of a bumpy start to the tournament for him. Maybe the first game.
Okay. To interrupt you here real quick, 4 years ago, Argentina lost Saudi Arabia in the first game.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was like, holy crap, Argentina's out. So they have a history of starting slow.
And then they won the whole thing, right?
Like, he's the young stud who, no one really talks about because there's Messi and Lautaro Martinez, all these amazing players. But he is the youngest, and he's so talented.
Yes, this is going to be your team. But you don't have to do more for this to be your team other than just be the best that you can be within yourself. The concern is that he tries to push himself too hard, and it becomes an adverse effect. It ends up hurting him rather than helping him. Especially, I'd really caution him around June 13th through to the 18th, the 13th to the 18th. That's when Mars is squaring his Mercury.
Okay.
Mars is also forming a sextile to his Mars, so it's like he's going to be feeling like this burst of energy, this incredible power, but at the same time, he might also be tripping over his own feet if he's pushing himself too hard. Then, as we get a little later in June, Mars moves into Gemini, and things start to really kind of open up for him. I feel like if they're still in the tournament, again, let's say right around June 29th, 30th, in early July through July 4th, that's when Mars is, and along with Uranus, the planet of innovation and the unexpected, is making a favorable aspect to his North Node, his soul's purpose. His soul's purpose is to be the star.
I queued it up just as that, so I'm in tune with the planets.
But really, I think things are going to open up for him early July. I feel like early July is when you see him stepping into that role as this is the guy now. It's not Messi, it's Alvarez. He's the star, he's taking over, and everybody's excited to see him. I would say that, I'd caution him to play within his game in June, but once we get to July, and again, this is interesting because like I had said earlier, when we were talking about Holland, that it's going to be interesting to see how different players, how their game shifts from June to July. If a player, I feel like Alvarez is going to kind of start slow in June, but when Mercury goes retrograde is when he's going to actually take off. In July is when I feel like he's going to shine. And especially once we get to July 7th, that's when Venus is aligning with his Jupiter in a positive way as it transits through Leo. And then by the end of the tournament, by July 14th through the end of the tournament, Jupiter is conjunct at the same degree as his North Node, which is literally saying, now's the time for you to be the hero. Take over, take control, be the star. It's all on you.
I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah.
According to the planets and the teams I've picked, because I think both Holland and Alvarez are going to have good World Cups. The next player I'm eyeballing here is PSG star and France star Desiree Doué. That's right. I'm not picking Kylian Mbappe. That's a little too easy. But I think Desiree Doué is going to have a really, really good World Cup. He's young. He's talented. He does still make some boneheaded plays, but he has been a star for PSG, who just won the Champions League. They've won it 2 years in a row, thanks to him. They made the Club World Cup finals and lost to Chelsea over the summer. A lot thanks to him. He is a young star in the making, or he's already a star. So, Scott, what do the planets say about Desiree Doué?
So for Doué, there's some similarity between what he's experiencing right now and what Alvarez is experiencing, because Doué is also being called to level up, to take that next step. Saturn, the planet of authority, responsibility, achievement, is aligning in a sextile, a positive aspect with his sun, the planet of vitality, at 12 degrees in Gemini, and his Mercury, the planet of communication, coordination, connectivity, also at 12 degrees in Gemini. Saturn during the whole tournament is going to be transiting from 13 to 14 degrees in Aries. That forms a sextile, a supportive aspect with Doué's mind and his identity. So he's being called to step up, to be a leader of the team, even though he's young, to really take responsibility for who he is. He has a unique set of gifts, and it's not important for him to be in the back seat. He is meant to be a part of a team, but he's meant to lead that team. His North Node, his soul's purpose, is in Aries, which is the sign that represents the self. It's in the 11th house that represents the team, the group. So he needs to be authentic. He can't pretend to be anybody other than who he is. Sometimes that's going to fit in with the group. Sometimes it's not. But the group's going to find their way to work around him because of his talents, I believe. Now, the day that the tournament begins, the sun transits from his 12th house, the house of the unconscious, into the first house, the house of personality, and forms a sextile, a supportive aspect with his North Node, his soul's purpose. So whatever that first game is for them on June 11th, I expect him to score. I expect him to do something to shine, to support the team in their victory. Mars is transiting through Taurus, and it forms positive aspects with his Saturn. That happens right around, we're looking at like June 17th to the 22nd. Mars is aligning with his Saturn.
That's when their first game is, around the 16th. France versus Senegal, which is a good game.
Okay, cool. So the 16th, it's not super close to Saturn then. When's the second game?
The second game is France. I want to say it may be against Norway here. France, Iraq on June 22nd.
June 22nd. I expect him to really shine in that game.
That's a perfect breakout game for him, where they can let Mbappe kind of takes it off, and he just takes off against Iraq and really shines.
Yeah, looking at the 16th, there's some okay aspects happening, but there's also some tense aspects. The 22nd is when things start to really tilt in his favor from a planetary perspective. Mercury, the planet of consciousness, is conjunct his Saturn and forming a trine with his Mars. So that's action and authority. Saturn, authority, achievement. Mars, action and confidence. Mars, the transiting Mars, is also aligning with those 2 points. So it feels like he's being supported in hitting that next stride. Venus also is beginning to align with his Sun and Mercury on that date, and Venus is Lady Luck.
Now, how about beyond? Because France, any team can lose and not go up, but France is the favorite, so they're predicted to go pretty deep into the tournament. So how is he more towards the early to mid-July?
Early to mid-July, It's a mix.
Mm-hmm.
There's some aspects happening with like Mars and Uranus, and Jupiter are aligning with his Chiron. Mars and Uranus are aligning in a positive way. Jupiter's a stressful way. I don't know if this means that maybe he has a potential injury or he's upset in some way on the field, but at the same time, Venus is aligning with his North Node in a positive way, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And the Sun is aligning with Uranus in a positive way those same days. Mercury is going to retrograde back over his Saturn and also form a trine retrograde with his Mars. If he's looking really good in June, maybe the tide turns a little bit and things aren't feeling as good for him in July. But it's really kind of a mix.
Okay.
Especially like right around July 13th, Mars is squaring his Uranus. That is tense. Like that, I don't know. I feel...
that's right near I believe that's the semis, which they very well could be in because they're an excellent team.
If they make it to those final days, the aspects really kind of turn favorably for him once you get to July 15th, 16th, 17th.
Okay.
That's when things are like, okay, now...
So the semis of the World Cup. Well, now I'm going to go to another French player, but again, it's not Kylian Mbappe. I'm going to one that I think has been on a tear. Rayan Cherki plays for Manchester City. I kind of feel like he's been Manchester City's secret sauce. At the back half of this season, he's been playing amazing. He's a really underrated attacking midfielder. He just ended the season on a tear, and so I've just been keeping an eye on him. He's part of this all-star French team, so he could get lost in the mix, but he is really, really talented, and he could surprise some people. So I'd like to see what does the planet say about Rayan Cherki in the World Cup. First game is Tuesday the 16th versus Senegal.
So he has kind of a tense transit that he's sitting with throughout this whole tournament, where Saturn is squaring his Chiron. He has a wound to authority. He has a wound to achievement. Saturn is the planetary ruler of Capricorn, the sign where Cherki's Chiron is, the wound in the ancient wisdom, which is unlocked through healing that wound. He is dealing with maybe some issues around self-confidence, self-belief, that he actually believes that they can win it all, that he can actually be a part of it. The key to him, what I would be advising to him is I would be reminding him about how fortunate he is, how great he is, how he's been given these God-given abilities to play on the stage, and that he really needs to just appreciate himself, value himself. If I was counseling the team, I would say, everybody needs to lift him up, needs to remind him how important he is to the team, even when he has a bad game, a bad practice, whatever it is, that nothing's bad, that he is good, and it's all, everything ebbs and flows, and to just remember, because his lesson is around self-worth and value.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he has a lesson to learn around self-worth and value, and particularly with regards to achievement, goals and ambitions, and being able to achieve those goals and ambitions. So on the 16th, the Sun is making favorable aspects to his Venus, his Mars, and his Jupiter. That's Lady Luck, the planet of luck, and the planet of vitality. So it feels like game one, he's smooth, he's feeling it. Mercury's aligning with Mercury. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit a goal or two in this game. Okay. Mars is also aligning with his Mercury in this game. So it just feels like, I don't know that the planets of everyone else on the team, but I would say that in that first game, he's one of the better players for France.
He's their kind of setup guy, if you will. He is a fantastic. He's wonderful with the ball.
Okay.
He's fantastic at passing, and he is not one of the first people you think of on this all-star French team.
Okay.
You think of Doué, you think of Mbappe first. Cherki is, as I said, underrated, so he would be overlooked by the general public who are watching it, but he is amazing, and he was the engine that was making that Man City charge at the end. They missed out on the Premier League title. He was a huge part of that charge at the end. I think he was top 3 in assists in the Premier League this last year.
So maybe he doesn't score a goal, but like any goals that are scored, I wouldn't be surprised if he is the guy who is setting up the exactly.
The assists, yeah. He's a big assistant. He's the kind of guy that can set everything up. It'll be Doué and Mbappe who are getting the accolades, but you'll see that Cherki really makes the engine run.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I like that first game for him. And then the second game was on the 22nd, I believe you said. So
yes.
Second game, Mars is squaring his Venus, his Sun, his Jupiter. I feel like that's going to be a more challenging game for him.
Okay.
Yeah, just because Mars squaring Venus, the Sun, and Jupiter, it just feels like maybe he's pushing himself too hard, maybe he's trying too hard. Though, Mercury is aligning with his North Node, so it's like if the rest of the team is being kind to him, nurturing him, carrying him, picking him up, through his difficulties, then he could turn it around in the game. The North Node will actually be transiting conjunct his Uranus. Uranus is the planet that would represent the team because it represents the village. The North Node in Pisces is really calling on him to have faith in the team.
Okay.
And the Sun is also aligning with that point too. So it's like the coach should maybe be telling him, like, just trust your instincts. Don't worry if the player is not in the right spot or whatever. Trust that they're going to be there, even if it doesn't look like they're going to be there. Like, just put the ball there, and they're going to show up.
That makes sense with the team because he is a playmaker. He does amazing things and puts people in the right position.
Yes.
And funny you say that about the 22nd game because they're playing Iraq. And, of course, I'm not coaching any of these teams, and I only know limited amounts about football, but I've got to imagine that Iraq is going to park the bus, which means they're just sitting there and playing defense and making it really difficult to score against this high-powered France team. All right, this next one I'm picking out, Scott, is unusual. As I said, this isn't all the guys who I think are going to be on a tear. These are the guys who have very interesting stories coming into the season. And for the next one, I've got in England, and I'm going to call him a star, even though a lot of people would disagree with me, Ivan Toney. And Ivan Toney was a surprise selection to the England team. He has not been playing in the Premier League for the past 2 seasons. He was formerly on Brentford, but he is now playing in the Saudi League with Al Ahly, Saudi FC. No offense to the Saudi leagues, but everyone's paying attention to the European leagues and to the Brazilian leagues. No one's really paying attention to the Saudi league, so he had a little bit of the shine fall off him. But Ivan Toney is baller. Ivan Toney is a guy who can do it himself and is like instant offense. He's the guy who comes in with like 5 minutes left in the game, like, screw it, we're going to bring out Toney and put him in there. And he scores and does it. He did that actually in the Euros for them. He was a huge player 2 years back where they would bring him in off the bench, and he did score at the end. So I really like Ivan Toney. I enjoy watching him, so I'm excited that he's part of this World Cup, but I know that a lot of England fans are very upset that he was chosen because there was a lot of really great players on England that were left at home. So what do the planets say is in store for Ivan Toney?
Well, it's a mix. I'm looking at that first game for them on June 17th.
Yeah.
And throughout the Cup, Saturn is going to be squaring his Jupiter. That's a kind of an unforgiving, difficult transit. It's when the planet of restriction, Saturn, is squaring Jupiter, the planet of expansion. He might be having this experience where he's like, here I am, finally at the World Cup. Is this his first World Cup?
No, actually, I don't think he was on the World Cup team. It was a surprise that he was left off because he was at his peak then. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. It says that he's played 7 games in his international career.
He's a controversial player.
Yeah. So he might be experiencing this feeling that here I am finally at the World Cup, but maybe he's not able to do what it is he wants to do. Especially that first game, there's a challenging aspect. In addition to Saturn squaring his Jupiter, which happens the entire tournament, The Sun squares his Saturn that first game on June 17th. So the planet of vitality squaring his planet of restriction. At the same time, Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion, is forming a trine, a supportive aspect with his Saturn. So it's a real dichotomy between the planet of restriction, squaring his planet of expansion, and the planet of expansion forming a trine, a supportive aspect with his planet of restriction. So it feels like maybe he has an opportunity during this first game to shine, but it doesn't come through.
Okay.
Or maybe it does.
They're playing a really tough Croatian team that is an excellent Croatian team that has made the semis several years in a row. They're an excellent team, and they know how to play well. And maybe they don't even bring him in this game. That is a possibility. Ivan Toney isn't even brought in because the England team is stacked. But he's instant offense. He does, like you said, he may not fit in with everybody. He's a lone wolf.
That makes sense. I mean, I could definitely see this as a game where he's just on the bench.
Yeah.
And he's biting, chopping at the bit, as they say, wanting to get in the game, not getting in the game. What he has to understand, his North Node is in Libra. He needs to learn to be patient.
Interesting.
And he might say, I'm 30 years old. I've been patient. It's like, this is the only chance I'm going to have to be in the World Cup. When I say be patient, it's because I think the second game, which occurs on the 23rd, the planets are a little more favorable to him.
Okay.
Jupiter is still aligning with his Saturn in a favorable way, the planet of luck with the planet of responsibility and achievement. But Mars, the planet of action, confidence, courage, is also aligning in positive aspect to his Sun, vitality, and his Saturn, achievement, authority, restriction. So it feels like that second game, the moon wants to be transiting through Libra, the same sign as his soul's purpose. So it feels like if he's going to shine, it's going to be that second game.
Okay, against Ghana.
Yes.
Interesting.
And then the third game,
I think it's on the 26th.
Against Panama, the 27th.
27th, yeah.
Yeah, so that one it's not as favorable as the Ghana game.
Okay.
It feels like maybe this is another game where he's not seeing the field. He's feeling frustrated by it because he played well against Ghana. I mean, there's Mercury.
That's very likely. That's very possible to happen.
Okay, yeah.
He is not the star. He is not a regular starter. He will probably be treated as a substitute, even though in his mind he should be starting, because again, that England team is stacked.
Yes.
But he is a quality player that can turn a game around when he's substituted in. How about later in July? How's his, because I imagine England's going to get to the knockout rounds.
So if they make it to July, I think right around July 4th, 5th, 6th, those are some decent looking days for him.
Okay.
Even, the 7th, maybe as well.
That's the round of 16, which they should make.
Yeah, so I mean, that's looking somewhat favorable on those dates. They go a little bit later. They make it to like July 16th. It feels like July 16th is a time where he could really shine, potentially. The 17th and 18th are a little more mixed, and same with the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they do happen to get towards the semis and the finals, because England has a solid chance to do that. We're talking like the 18th, 19th, that time. I'm sorry, the 14th, 15th, 18th, 19th. What does he look like around then?
I would say the 14th, 15th, and 16th, I like him. But once we get to the 17th, 18th, 19th, it switches.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as favorable for him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets the super sub in the semis, and then in the finals he doesn't even see anything. Next on my list here is Korean star forward Son Heung-min, who currently plays for LAFC, and I know that Tottenham would have loved to have him in their relegation battle, even though they stayed up. They really could have used him. He's amazing. He is the star of Korea. He's their best player, maybe their best player ever. And so, what do the planets say about Son?
He's dealing with some tension here. With Saturn, the planet of restriction, is basically squaring Son's sun the entire tournament. So the sun is the planet of vitality and the identity. Saturn is the planet of restriction and responsibility. The way that I would counsel him to move through this is his North Node is in Capricorn. So I would want Son to have like a list of goals for this World Cup, for every game, for the overall tournament. And I would want him to take full responsibility to achieve those goals. The more that he's committed to achieving the goals that he sets forth for himself, the more likely he will be able to move through this difficult transit during the tournament.
The first game is June 11th, and they're playing the Czech Republic.
Yes.
Who's very good, and they're big bruising. They don't allow you to score much. That makes sense. And then the next game is a week later, and they're playing Mexico and Mexico, and those are two really tough games.
That's when they're playing Mexico. Yeah. The game versus Mexico, interestingly enough, I feel like he might play better than the first game.
Oh.
Because on the 18th, Mars is aligning with his Venus in a very positive aspect, a sextile. It's moved away from his Saturn. Mercury is also conjunct his Venus. Venus is Lady Luck, the goddess of love and beauty. So it feels like it might sound crazy, but if I was betting, I would bet on him to have a better game versus Mexico than the Czech Republic.
That's interesting. Although, for any Mexican fans out there, I apologize. I think the Czech Republic is a really, really good team and maybe slightly better than Mexico. Mexico hasn't been as awesome as they used to be. They're not a guarantee to be going to the knockout rounds. Kind of like the U.S. Making the knockout rounds is a big deal.
And then he plays South Africa on the 24th.
Yes.
So, that is also a game where it's like, okay, there's a couple aspects that I'm like, this looks okay, fairly positive, but nothing that really jumps out at me that's like, oh, wow, this looks like an amazing aspect that's going to support him. I would just say that, the main thing for this June 24th game is he needs to really value himself. He needs to appreciate himself. He needs to be willing to shine, to be the center of attention. With Venus is transiting through Leo, conjunct his Mercury. Maybe he gives a speech or something that inspires the rest of the team. And that's his contribution to their potential victory.
He is the star on Korea. So that is not a shock that you'd say he'd be the one who'd speak up in the locker room at halftime against a tough Mexico team.
It feels like he's going to have to do that.
Yeah.
On that last game against South Africa, is to really give some inspired words that are going to help the rest of his team really honor themselves in the way that they play.
Now, they may make the knockout round. I can't imagine. They may make the round of 32. I'd be really shocked if they went beyond that. But if they did make the round of 32, which would be the 28th, 29th, 30, like that 28th to July 1st, how does Son look?
There's nothing here that truly inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like July 1st, 30th, June 30th and July 1st. There's a tense aspect happening with Venus and Pluto. Feels like he's going to have to go through some difficult transformations in terms of relationships.
I don't know his dating history, but he did. There is a thing here that says Son will not marry until he retires. So
maybe that's his girlfriend saying, "Okay, you guys lost. Now it's time for you to
Now's the
retire."
time to give me that ring.
Exactly.
I've been very vocal about my love for Sweden, as I'm Swedish here, so I have to put a Swedish player in there, and so I'm going with Victor Gyökeres, who is an Arsenal forward. He literally willed Sweden into the World Cup during the qualifiers. He's the one who scored the goal in the twilight of the game. I was actually devastated that I thought they were going to be out of the World Cup, and Gyökeres had a tear during the qualifiers at the very end. I am very happy that Sweden is going to be in the World Cup. Gyökeres is awesome. He's a great player for Arsenal, who just won the Premier League. And what do the planets say is in store for Victor?
This is another gentleman that we're looking at where I think like the first two that we talked about leveling up.
Yes.
He's in a period right now where the planets are saying it's time for you to level up. It's time for you to step into that position of power, authority, achievement, so that you can achieve the goals that you've set out to achieve. He was born with the sun at 13 degrees in Gemini. And as we've said many times to the other players, Saturn during this World Cup is moving from 13 to 14 degrees in Aries. It's holding in this position. It's very unique. Saturn typically doesn't hold, a couple degrees for this long, but it does when it's going to retrograde, which it will after the cup is over. So at the beginning of the cup, Saturn's at 13 degrees in Aries, and at the end of the cup, it's at 14 degrees. Eucharis was born with the sun at 13 degrees in Gemini, which forms a sextile with Saturn. Saturn's responsibility, achievement, authority, restriction. You're restricted until you've done the work that is evident that you are worthy to achieve. His sun is the planet of vitality. So that's a really strong position for him throughout the tournament. In the beginning of the tournament. So Sweden,
June 14th, Tunisia.
June 14th.
Yep.
Okay, so Sweden's first game is June 14th. Jupiter will be at 26 degrees in Cancer. He was born with Jupiter at 25 degrees in Pisces. That is a very supportive aspect, a trine. So it feels like he's going to come out of the gate strong. He's going to lead the team. Chiron is also forming a conjunction with Saturn. Feels like there's some healing that is happening here for him around being in authority, or a lack of self-confidence that maybe he's had in some respects in his life. He is able to move through that during this period in this first game. So I like the first game for him. What about the second game?
Well, before you say we move to the second, that's really interesting because he's on Arsenal, which is a stacked team, and he's been a little bit of an afterthought at the end of the season. So that healing aspect sounds really interesting there. Their next game is against the Netherlands, and that's a big one. That's a really tough game, and that's on Saturday, June 20th.
So it sounds like he's going to be kind of healing the Arsenal stuff and saying, like, look, I am a good player. I'm the star of the Swedish team, and I'm leading them to victory. So when we get to June 20th, now Chiron's moved on to 0 degrees in Taurus. That starts to square his Neptune. That can bring up feelings of confusion around self-worth with regards to the team. So, things start to shift a little bit. At the same time, the sun is forming a favorable aspect to his Saturn, so he is being pulled into that position of leadership. Venus, Lady Luck, is aligning with his Mars, the planet of action, courage, and confidence, self-love in a positive way. So I like that. Jupiter, the planet of luck, is still aligning with his Jupiter in a positive way. So it feels like this second game, whether they win or lose, he's going to play pretty well.
Nice. I like hearing that. The last game they have is against a tough Japanese team. I believe it's on June 25th.
June 25th. The sun's aligning with Venus in a positive way. Venus is aligning with the sun in a positive way. Mars is aligning with Jupiter. Jupiter is aligning with Jupiter in a positive way. Mercury is aligning with Jupiter in a positive way. I feel like he's going to play a great game here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to get ahead of myself and say if they do make the knockout stage at that end of June to like July 2nd, how does he look?
That's when things start to shift.
Damn it.
Because he was born with Saturn at 29 degrees in Aries. And so it feels like once you get to maybe June 26th, maybe even the 25th, but there's a lot of other favorable aspects on the 25th, so I'd still like that day for him. But once you get to the 26th, the 27th, he's going to feel like he's stopped dead in his tracks. The 29th is when Jupiter moves into Leo. So it moves away from his Saturn. So if he doesn't have a game until June 30th, then I can still feel a little more positive about him. If there's a game between the 26th and the 29th, I don't really like what it's showing for him. If he's still playing by like July 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, I think the aspects are favorable for him. July 7th, July 8th, July 9th is his Martian return. That should feel really good, very positive. So there's just that little chunk from, say, June 26th to the 29th that doesn't look good for him. But if he can push through that, if they don't have any games during that period, I think he'll play well the rest of the tournament.
All right, so I'm rooting for, if they make it to the round of 32, that they're the back half of the round 32.
Yes.
Sweden has other players, so he's not the only player on the team, but he is one of the stars on the team. So, and a very likable star.
And if they can get to July 18th, that would be a great day for him.
That would be a great day for me. That would mean that they made it to the semis. And I will say, Sweden has made it to the semis, I believe, twice.
Okay.
So it made it to the constellation. So
it's not unheard of.
It's not unheard of. It's not counted on, but it's not unheard of. But go Sverige.
Yeah.
All right, this last one here I put on there because I am Scottish too, and this guy's really fun here. Former Manchester United star, now Napoli star, Scott McTominay is one of the features of Scotland. And McTominay left Manchester United in a cloud a couple years back, but he has been completely rejuvenated with Napoli. I mean, the fans, that must be amazing to be a player for an Italian team and the whole city is like wearing kilts for you.
Wow.
The city of Napoli loves Scott McTominay. And I got to imagine, outside of Rome, Napoli would be one of the places that I would love to be celebrated. It must be the life, living right on the Mediterranean and like playing soccer. Scotland hasn't been to the World Cup in a while. It's a big deal. So I'm curious, what do the planets say about Scott McTominay?
Well, I see their first game is June 14th, and I love the aspects for him on that day. Mars is forming a grand trine, which is an amazing supportive aspect with McTominay's Mars and with McTominay's Jupiter. Mars is the planet of action, courage, confidence, self-love. Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion. So couldn't ask for a better aspect than a grand trine between Mars, and Jupiter. It's also opposing his Venus. Feels like he's like, I don't care about my relationships or anything. I'm laying it all on the table here to come out strong for Scotland. Jupiter is opposing his Neptune. That can bring about some positive or unbelievable dreams and fantasies coming true here, though Jupiter does begin to square his Chiron during this period. So feels like he's going to have a good first game against Haiti. They play Morocco next on.
Morocco's really tough.
Yeah.
Morocco is a great team. It's not just a good team; they're a great team.
Okay, yeah.
And they're defensive. They're defensive stalwarts. Which McTominay is a playmaker. He's the one who kind of has the ball on his feet. I was about to say in his hands. He has the ball at his feet and is making the plays happen. And Morocco is a defensive stalwart.
Yeah, and the planets have shifted here by the 19th. Mars isn't as tightly connected to his Mars and Jupiter, so not as favorable. By this time now, Jupiter is forming an exact trine on this day with his Chiron. It feels like there could be some sort of tension around relationships or wounding to relationships that are bringing up trauma from the past in some way. Maybe there's some confusion around communication. There's some challenges lingering in this area for him throughout the whole tournament because Neptune's going to be squaring his Mercury. Neptune's a cloudy planet. Mercury's the planet of communication. Neptune's the unconscious. Mercury's the conscious. So that's a lingering issue for the whole tournament. Pluto, the whole tournament, is forming a trine with his North Node in Libra. So he's here to learn about relationships. The best thing that he can do during this tournament is really be clear with his teammates and everyone that he's in relationship with in his personal life, personal or professional, what his expectations are in terms of what he's willing to give in return for what he wants to receive. He needs to learn to be patient, to take his time, to not rush into situations or rush out of situations that he feels uncomfortable about. The sun will be aligning with his Chiron on the 19th in a positive way. So the more that he can ask questions rather than make assumptions, the better the outcome will be for him during this game versus Morocco.
Interesting. Their last game is against Brazil on the 24th, and that is a large ask.
Yeah, that's, I mean...
I can't see them getting that. I don't see them moving to the knockout round. I'm not going to knock Scotland. I hope they do.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for you, Scotland.
Yeah.
But that's a tough group with Brazil and Morocco back to back.
Yeah, the planets are kind of ambiguous on this day for him. There is one positive aspect with Mars at 26 degrees in Taurus is forming a trine with his Neptune at 26 degrees. So Neptune is dreams, fantasy, manifestation. Mars is action. So maybe there is like the impossible dream coming true here for...
That would be an epic upset if Scotland beat or tied, even if they tied them.
For Scotland. Yeah, so who knows? But that's really the only one that's jumping out to me here. There's nothing else that says, oh wow, like luck is on his side.
Scott McTominay with a goal or an assist on June 24th.
Yeah, exactly.
If they did make it to the round of 32, that end of June, early July, how do they look?
There's just a lot of tension there for him. Mars is opposing his Pluto in early July, the god of war, opposing the god of death. Like, that's a tough aspect to deal with. Honestly, I feel like he's going to be going through some internal struggles here.
Okay.
Where he's going to need to do some self-reflection and think about how, you know, when he's in situations that are similar to situations in the past, how to do them radically different than he's done them in the past, moving forward. Now, there is, June 29th, Mars is aligning with his Saturn in a positive way. So maybe there's an inkling of hope there. It aligns with his Uranus in a positive way on July 2nd and July 1st. So, if they do make it that far, there is some positive aspects. But by the time you get to July 3rd and 4th, that's when Mars is really opposing his Pluto, which feels very intense.
It'd be amazing if Scotland advanced to the knockout round, but if he does it at the early part, if he does it in June, he's got a shot. All right, well, that's all we got for this episode. Thanks to Scott Tejerian for coming.
Whoa, Mr. Castles.
Where's this disembodied Mark Renee voice coming from?
Oh, my goodness. What happened to a partnership here? You're going to do a whole other episode without me?
No. Scott was free. We just came into the studio. Don't read anything into it.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen, I have a great idea. Is there any chance, maybe for the next episode, I can talk about my players to watch in the upcoming World Cup?
Deal. I got mine out there. How about you come on? Let's see if the Soccer Sharps will come on with us, too. We'll get all your guys' players.
That's a great idea.
Excellent. So tune in for the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Ultra World Podcast. Get out there and find your football family.
This has been the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Mark Renee and Sean Castles. Our executive producer is Sue Zizza. Mark Renee and Sean Castles are co-producers. David Shin is our master engineer. Assistant producer, Avery Gehrig, Corinna Tariki, Eurus Mung, and I'm Alicia Antwine. To be a guest on the Ultra World Podcast or learn all about sponsorship opportunities, send an email to ultraworldpod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the show on all the social media platforms at Ultra World Pod. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved, Ultra World Podcast, LLC.